Hello, I'm Dennis Frommeyer. I've been doing carpenter work for many years, 25 years I guess or better, and I'm going to demonstrate for you today how to create an opening in this wall, or to create this opening bigger. It's actually what I'm going to be doing. And this is a non-bearing wall. You wouldn't want to do this on a bearing wall. And what we're going to start out with is we're going to run a level line from here to where we want the wall to end at, the opening to end. So let's get started. Okay, first we're going to start out by running a level line from here over to where we're going to end up at. And we do that by taking our level and leveling it up. You just simply follow it all the way over. And that's about that. And then we're going to, we have decided to run it to about right here. So I made me a mark on the floor where I wanted it to be, and now we're going to plumb up to the line up there. The difference between plumb, this is level. Okay. Just simply draw a line from there up to wherever you want it to go. Okay, now that we've got our lines drawn at the top and at the side, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this drywall out. And again, you don't want to do this on a barren wall. A barren wall is a wall that has the weight of the house pushing down on it. This house has got trusses, so it'll have a little bit of weight, but it's not necessarily a barren wall. And we're going to put a header in it anyways, but I'm going to show you later on how to do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to use a drywall saw to cut along that line, and we'll just cut it out with that. You can use a reciprocating saw, and I'll kind of demonstrate that, but it's not really recommended because there's electric wires in there, and there's a good chance that you might cut those electric wires with a reciprocating saw, as where with this, with a drywall saw, you're not quite as apt to do that. Before you get started, you're going to want to put your dust mask on and your goggles, and you just pick a spot anywhere and you poke through. And you just you don't want to take real deep pokes in, strokes, because you're liable to cut a wire. You just want to do short ones, and you just cut along the line. And then when you get to a stud, I just ran into a stud. Could you zoom in on that? Or you already zoomed in? Okay. And when you get to the stud, what you'll do is you'll just kind of turn it flat so that you can cut away from it. And then you go on the other side of the stud, poke through, and again. And what you can do is take a utility knife and cut right there, and that'll cut the drywall clean. Okay, this is what's known as a reciprocating saw. Like I said, you can use this. You would want to start with the drywall saw and get started, but you would just barely put this in there, and you maybe even keep it at a slant to run through it. It's a little bit quicker. It's a whole lot more dangerous, so we're not going to do it that way. We're going to use the drywall saw.
Now that we've got the drywall cut all the way across and down, we're going to go back and find the studs and cut the drywall the rest of the way. So we're going to take our saw and put it in, find the stud, and cut the drywall with the utility knife. Then we'll go on to the next one and do the same thing all the way across.
Okay, now that we've got our hole cut on our line, we're just going to simply bust the drywall out. You just put a hole in it somewhere and just start pulling on it. You see the wiring that you've got in here? This is why you wouldn't want to cut it with a reciprocating saw. You'd want to cut it with a drywall saw like we did, so we wouldn't take a chance on cutting into that. Okay, now we're going to cut the other side. We've gone ahead and drawn our lines, and then where we could see the wires on the other side, we could tell where they're at. So what I did was I went on the other side and took my drywall saw and poked a hole through, so I knew where the wires were at, because I'm going to use the reciprocating saw, and I'm going to show you how much easier it is to cut the drywall. It's just a lot less effort. But first of all, we need to put our safety stuff on. Put our mask on. And our goggles. And then we're ready to cut. We'll cut this down here first. See how much easier it is to cut? And we're going to stop there. And then when we get to we'll go up here, and when we get to the stud, we'll know it. I'm already hitting the stud. So what I'd want to do is take my saw, my drywall saw, poke a hole through there so that we can go the other direction. And again, you can kind of go crossways there so that you can get all the drywall cut. Another stud. Then you just do the same thing again. Okay, we've got our lines cut, and so now we're just going to simply break the drywall out. You just pick somewhere and hope you don't hit a stud. And you just start tearing it out. And as the more you get out, the more easier it'll come off. Okay. Now that we've got all the drywall out, we're going to have a licensed electrician come in and take care of these wires for us. We're going to move some wires, the outlets and the switches around. And once that's done, then I'll show you how we do the rest of it. Put a header back in and get rid of the studs and stud it back up. That's it for now. Now that we've got the electric moved, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut these joists out, or these studs out. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to draw a level line across up here so that we don't have to replace this drywall. We're going to cut a level line across here and cut this stud out. And I'm going to show you how you do that. First, we're going to measure up 3.5 inches from this first stud where we started out at. And that'll give us room for the header. So you're going to get your level out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our drywall saw and punch a hole through here on each stud, and then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into here. You're not going to want to come back here. You're going to come up pretty close to the stud. And we're going to just poke a hole, just so that it gives us room to get our reciprocating saw in there. And we're going to do it on the other side, and that's going to allow us to keep a straight line going across. Okay, to prevent that from getting in a bind like it was, you might get somebody to kind of help hold the board a little bit. Okay, now that we've got all those cut, what we're going to do is we're going to take the reciprocating saw and cut it down low, and then just simply pull the stud out. Then you're just going to go on, cut them all out. All right. Okay, now we're just going to pull the studs out. And now you've got a hole. And then I'll show you how to fix that here, finish it out here in just a minute. Okay, I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's a cold air return right here. And to prevent from losing any of your return air, we're going to have to, it was 6 inches wide and 24 inches long, I'm going to say. And to prevent from losing any of that, we're going to make it taller. So what we're going to have to do is we've got to cut this piece of what's creating the return. We're going to cut it out, and we're going to eventually move it over here. And the return that's going to be over here is just not going to be skinny and long. It's going to be more square or rectangle. But we're going to do that by, we're going to level up from where that stud is there, and we are going to cut like we did on the other, when we cut the other studs. We're basically going to do the same thing down here. And as far as the holes up there, we'll just patch them with some drywall mud, and it'll all be fine. So let me get this cut. Again, we're going to take our drywall saw, give it something to go by. We're going to get our holes started so that we know we're going pretty straight. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side, so I can stick my blade from my reciprocating saw all the way through. Okay, now we're going to cut this just like we did on the other side, or up top there. We've already put our slots in. Now just cut straight down. And we should be able to knock that board out of there.
Now that we've got the board out, you're going to want to vacuum down inside the cold air return.
Okay, now we just need to just get this board out of there. Voila! Now we'll go ahead and clean up this. Okay, what we're going to do next is we've got a floor joist right here, and we're going to put a stud on top of that. We need to account for 2 studs, so it'll be 3 inches. And what we'll do is we'll measure up from that stud, or from that joist, up into the wall, and get a measurement. And we're going to want it to be a little tight, so that, because we're not going to be able to nail it real good up in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to try to pressure it in there, and then we'll nail it to the nail it later on with the stud, the jack stud. So we're going to just measure up in there. And it's about 94 5/8. All right, so we're going to cut us a board 94 5/8. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to try to find a good straight stud. Your doors, your corners are your most important parts that you want straight. And the way you check to see how straight they are is you look down them, and this one's really pretty straight. So we're going to go ahead and measure out our 94 5/8. And we're going to cut it. And what you want to do is you want to stay to the right of the line. Your blade's always going to be on your waist side of your line. So that's what we're going to cut it at. And that's all there is to that. Then we're going to take it and we're going to put it up inside the wall. Maybe. And it might be a little tight. And we're going to take it out and trim just a little bit off. It's hard to get a good measurement up inside that wall. So we're just going to trim a little bit off. And you want to be careful knocking it in there because you don't want it to go too far, or you're going to have a hard time pulling it back out. So I think we'll just leave it like that for now. And I think I'll go ahead and put a nail in at the bottom to hold it still at the bottom, then I'll knock the rest of the top over. Okay, remember what we were going to go 3 inches over to make up for the thickness of the studs. So what I'm going to do is I've already measured 3 inches over from here, and I'm going to kind of draw a little level line, plumb line down to the floor. And where that stud is sitting on that joist, I'm just going to knock it over so it's even with that joist, and then, or my line, and then I'm going to toenail it to hold the bottom still. Okay, now we're going to take and knock this over to where it's plumb. Okay. Remember, plumb, level. Okay. Okay. I'm going to show you a little trick. You're putting this level inside this wall. You can't hardly see to check the plumb, the bubble to see how plumb it is. What you can do is find you a good straight board, put it on, and hold them together. And now you can see your bubble, and it's nice and plumb. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to cut a 2x4 and the length of here to this stud, and we're going to place it up inside there, and then we're going to put what's called a jack stud against it to hold it in place. So first what we need to do is get our measurement. It's about 67 and 3/16. So we're going to cut 2 of those, 67 and 3/16 inch long. Okay, now that we've got our board cut, we are going to put it back up in there, or put it up in there. And I've got me an assistant to kind of help me hold it. And we're going to line this up with the edges of the board, and we're going to drill a hole in it instead of nailing it so we don't knock our board back. And you're going to put it in at an angle. So that it's good and tight. The screw will tighten it up. And that's going to hold that up in there, and then this other end we'll just toenail it. Again, we're going to a little bit of an angle. And we're going to line it up with the other edge of the board. And we've got our first piece up there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut another one and put it beside it on the front. And that'll be the header. Okay, next we're going to put the jack stud in here, which is going to also help support this header. There's really not much support in there because it's not a barren wall, but it'll just help to support it. What we're going to do is measure down, and we're going to go, I'm going to go 86 inches. That way I can nail into that joist down there too. And we'll just nail that up in there. Okay. Okay, we've got our board cut, and what we're going to do is we're going to slide it down inside there and get it lined up there, get it in down there, and then we're going to take this board Kind of use it to kind of prop it up there. Nail it on up in there. And then we're going to continue our nails all the way down, and that's about it.
Alright, now that we've got our header in and our jack stud, we are going to build a short wall at the other end that is going to get our final width of our opening. And we're going to use these two boards here. That's going to be the length of the wall, and we'll use them to determine the length of the stud. What we're going to do is lay them on the floor and then measure up to the header so that we get our final length. And those boards will be acting as our top and bottom plates.
Okay, now that we got our studs cut, we're going to nail them on, and then we'll be ready to go. So you just line up get your nail started. Okay, now that we've got our little wall built, we're just going to stand it up next to it and put it in its place. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to nail from here into this other stud. Everything all evened up good and straight. Put one about in the middle. Or a little crooked. You can check it by using your square, put them flat against each other, and when it's straight, then you can nail it. And we'll put a couple nails up in the plate. And we'll put a couple on the bottom. Actually, you're probably better off to make sure you got a straight string line going across there. Or you can plumb this up. Well, I know this other existing wall wasn't straight, so we can't hardly plumb it up. So we're going to have to run a string line and just make sure we're in line. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, I'm going to show you how you use a string line to check to see how straight something is. If I can get my assistant to come and help me here for a minute. I'm going to get her to hold the string here on this corner. Then I'm going to put this down here. What you can do is put it down closer to the floor. Pop you a line, and then you've got a line to go by. And you just line this up. Put a couple nails in it. And now you've got a new opening. And that's about all there is to it. Thank you.